Sunrise Live. We're just about to get into the second hour, but before we do that, we would like to invite your comments and suggestions and any questions you have regarding the show. 8040 is our SMS number. Please do use it. And remember, you can catch us on our digital platform, www.standardmedia.co.ke. I'm Edith Kimani, and I'm joined in studio by two gentlemen, Jeremiah Makori and Justus Nyang'aya. He's a country director of Amnesty International, and Jeremiah Makori is a country representative, or rather represented our country at the World Habitat Forum. And this morning we're talking about World Habitat Day. That's exactly what's going on today. And perhaps, Justus, we can begin with that. What exactly is it, and do you reckon that Kenyans even know about it?
I don't think many Kenyans know about this, but they know about the situation where they are in. So I think that is what we are going to address. Mm-hmm. And this is a UN day, which the UN shares with many people around the world to remind governments that indeed cities, especially where people live, need to be planned for.
Right.
But they also need to be sustainable in the way that the government's budget, in the way that governments look after people that want accommodation. Because sometimes we can pitch our accommodation to, say, 13,000, 15,000 house rent. But how about people that earn 10,000 shillings?
Right.
Where do they live? Mm-hmm. Now, this is the question that we are looking at. And you will be surprised that 3 out of 4 people that you see walking in the streets today are actually living in what we call slums or informal settlements.
3 out of 4?
3 out of 4 people living in Nairobi today or in sub-Saharan Africa live in what you will call slums or informal settlements.
All right.
In other words, places that have not really been planned by government to have housing, but to also take social services like education, water, health, security, police posts.
Things that we take for granted or we think are favors that the government is doing for us. But, you know, you've introduced a very interesting topic there. 3 out of 4 people live in informal settlements. And Jeremiah, you know this all too well, coming from a slum. So perhaps you can tell us, you know, we always talk about slums as though they're these places that we never can really get. Your daily life, your routine, what is there, what is not there? Just a brief overview.
Yeah, thank you. And in fact, for some time, the government of Kenya has been neglecting people in the slums. As you have heard from Mr. Justus, is that more than half of the city population now are people from the slums. And remember, these people, they are the ones who pay taxes. Mm-hmm. And these taxes, when they pay, they expect to get some services, to get some services in return. But remember, in fact, in a slum, because I come from the slum, and this is where you can move in and find that there is no toilet, public toilet. There is no water. Houses, you can't imagine the kind of houses people live in.
All right, so let's just paint a scenario for our viewers, because I'm imagining some of them might not really know what exactly you're talking about. So on average, how much does one pay to be in perhaps where you stay, and what services do you get? You're saying you don't have water. Do you have electricity? I'm assuming there's no such thing as garbage collection if you're saying there are no toilets. Just tell us some of the things that you encounter.
So some of the things that we encounter where in the slums is that some are that where we are in these slums, we found that we live in a congested area, and again, we lack these services. Not simply we lack them, but because the government has neglected to provide these services to us. And who are these people who are living in these slums? Perhaps the government fails to understand who these people are. Mm-hmm. These are the people who are low income earners. These are the security men, the midwives, samba boys, and all that. Because you find the minimum wage in Kenya is 7,000. And for me to support my family and to put something on the table, I have to look somewhere where I can be able to get affordable rent and at the same time have something to pay school fees for my children. So that's where you find that we live in those areas. And regardless that, despite that we are very hardworking people in the slums, the government doesn't mind.
It doesn't mind.
Yeah.
Justice Jeremiah has said that the government is neglecting the housing issues of the people in the city. Do you think it's neglect, or do you think that as a people we're also very comfortable with the way things are?
I think it is the responsibility of government to be able to look at issues of social provision and provide that. And I'd like to give you an example. Jeremiah talks about social services. Water, for example, is, in fact, Jeremiah pays 10 to 16 times more than what Beth Mugo or Prime Minister pays. Those are their members of parliament. But why do I say that? It's because they don't have the metered water. Water goes to the informal settlement and sold by vendors. So they have to mark up their prices. When we did a little study around what, in fact, is provided in the informal settlement, we realized that in all the informal settlements, they do not have police posts or police stations. Now, and I told you that there are over 65% of city residents that are living in the informal settlement. Now, these are people without security. Now, look around. There are no public schools in all the informal settlements. There are no public health services. And there are lots of other services that needs to be there but are not there. But these are people that that bring up their children. These are people that work very hard as watchmen, as bus drivers, as mechanics, as they sell food. They run the economy of this country. They vote. But at the time of voting, politicians go to them and say, please vote for me because I'll do this. But that is not done. Why?
Jeremiah, I'm seeing you nodding your head. This is sounding familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
But why? Because of planning purposes. In the Nairobi City plan, which is called the master plan, informal settlements are not, in fact, included there. So therefore, planning is not taking into consideration all these like water, education, security, health. That cannot be taken there because it is not part of the Nairobi city planning. So all these people, therefore, are not being given opportunity to enjoy social services just like other people do elsewhere.
All right. So what are some of the dangers of this issue going unresolved? Because we're saying 65%, that's a huge number of people. And if this persists, then what?
You know, 2025, which is less than 10, 15 years from now, we are going to have a lot more people living in urban areas than in rural areas. And if we don't plan where people live and where people do businesses and where people do other things, we are going to be overwhelmed as a government, but we are also going to be overwhelmed as a people. As we see informal settlements now, if we don't plan for them, but we also don't budget for them, for example, the low or what we call the social housing units that will house a family of 3 people and they pay 3,000 or 4,000. if we don't plan for them, we are going to have a complete disorganization, especially in Nairobi, but also in other cities.
All right. Let's just stop there for now. We take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk to Jeremiah a bit more until he'll tell us what some of the solutions could be. First of all, being a dweller of some of these informal settlements and having represented the country at the World Habitat Forum. Do stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to KTN Sunrise Live. If you're just joining us, the topic of discussion right about now is your habitation, where you stay. Has the government planned for it? Are you getting the services that are rightfully yours? We're talking about water, we're talking about sanitation, things like drainage. Those are some of the things we're having in our discussion this morning. And joining me in studio is Jeremiah Makori, who represented Kenya at the World Habitat Forum, and Justus Nyang'aya, who is the country director at Amnesty International. I'm really having fun saying your name. It's now rolling out of my tongue much better than earlier.
Very well, Edith.
All right, so before we went for the break, we promised that we'd come back with you, Jeremy, and you would tell us what exactly the World Habitat Forum, first of all, is, and what are some of the solutions which were garnered from that discussion?
Yeah, in fact, having had that opportunity to represent the country as a slum resident in that forum, indeed, I was able to portray the exact picture of the slums residents, what challenges that the slums face on daily basis. And what I was amazed is that I saw the governments presenting a very good presentation about their plans, which they have about urbanization. But the question which beat my mind is that what happens back at home on the ground? Is it true as by their presentation?
Right.
But when I was trying to picture back what is happening, because at the moment, at least all slums people in the slums, they live under threats of eviction. And I wondered, the government was giving very good presentation about that it is trying to improve the cities, and there is no eviction that is taking place. And in fact, I had the opportunity to visit the Roma community in Italy. Mm-hmm. And in fact, there are around 500 families. Imagine these families, they came initially from Bosnia because of the war which emerged there. And when they came to Italy, they were put in camps. Remember these people, now they are called nomads, and yet while they were in their country, they were people living in homes. But when they came to Italy, they were put to camps and they were nicknamed nomads now.
Right.
Instead, the government of Italy improving the lives of these people. This is a smaller number of people. It is now keeping on moving these people from one camp to the other. And when I gave that picture back to Kenya, I saw the government pushing the goalposts instead of improving the lives of people in the slums. It is keeping on evicting people. Not even evicting people, but evicting them forcefully. Mm-hmm. Never mind that I've been a casualty of this forced eviction. Twice now. One was 2005, and the last one was 2010. And now I'm facing another imminent eviction which is near to take place because of a road construction. And remember, in 2005, I lost everything. We were never given any notice. We just found tractors coming at midnight. They clashed everything that we had.
And this is probably likely to continue, Justus, and he's just representing a small section of the people who face this. And we're seeing that according to the census, more people are moving into the urban towns. What's going to happen? What is the solution? And especially from an individual basis, what can Jeremiah do? What can I do?
The first thing I think the government needs to do is plan, but also to respect and treat with dignity their own people that live especially in poor areas of our country and our cities. What Jeremiah is talking about, especially about forced eviction, is a major thing, and it is also an attractive way that a government will quickly want to say that because you are living here as squatters, and you really don't have any legal status to live where you do, the quick thing is to move people away. But you see, what happens is that the government had made this obligation, and they had taken responsibility at the international and regional level that we will not force or forcefully evict our people from where they live. But what we will do are the following. We will ensure that if they live in the place where they must not live, we will talk to them, let them know that they need to be moved from this place to another place. Exactly. But as a government, we will have representation to say that even as you are living, we will facilitate that, and we will identify ourselves and say, this is the government of Kenya, from this particular department, we are going to move you from here to there. Now, this year and last year, we have seen lots of forceful eviction. People have lost their properties, but they have also lost their lives. When your blanket or school book or pencil or utensil are crushed by a bulldozer, they are actually destroying your life,
right,
and pushing you further into poverty. So last year and the year before, the Ministry of Lands really did craft a working group to come up with what is called evictions and resettlement guidelines, so as to regulate the way a government treats its people with respect, move people from one place to another. Now, this needed to have been taken to Parliament so that it becomes law. And this year is going to be taken to Parliament by Honorable Shabir as a private member's bill, so that the government of Kenya have a policy and a regulation. It is called Evictions and Resettlement Procedure Bill.
Right.
So that our people are treated with dignity wherever they are, but also respectfully. When they are evicted, then the government has to be there. But you see, what happens is, Jeremiah says that people are evicted at night. In the procedures that the government signed to, says that you must not be evicted at night, over the weekend, or in bad weather. And people must not be left homeless.
The international community and the international world as a whole seems very invested in this whole issue of housing and the habitation. But as a people, Jeremiah, would you say that we are as keen? Are your neighbors aware of this bill? Are they aware of what government should be doing for them? Are they talking about it?
Yeah, they are talking about it, but their voices is not heard. The government is giving them a deaf ear. And if I can say, there's a question you asked about, Justice, about what will happen if the government is not going to solve this problem at this level. We are seeing what is happening in the Arab world now. There is a uprising in the recent years. So why? It is because these people have been denied democracy for quite a long time. And now that the government doesn't want to solve the case of these slums at this moment, it will reach a time, because now the government evicts people from this place, it is eroded itself, people go and resettle on the sewage line. For some time, they settle there, then the government comes, it evicts them from there, they go to and settle under the high voltage electric cables. Now, it will reach a time where these people can never contain that anymore. There will be a uprising, and no amount of machinery will stop these people. So that's what we are telling the government. Like what happened in South Africa. When Mandela came to power, there was a way to the slum. He did not demolish it. Instead, he improved that slum. And what we are saying is that let the government improve the slums where people live. And we know that the government cannot construct houses for each individual.
Right.
But if people are given the opportunity and minimum security of Kenya, I am able, because I'm a hard-working person, I'm able to try and improve my living standards. But now you see, whenever efforts I'm putting in, I'm trying to do some small business. The next day the government comes in, they destroy it.
They destroy
I'm
it.
reduced to square one.
But just as, you know, Jeremiah is saying that the government needs to come and improve. Have they done nothing so far? I mean, we did see what they tried to do in Kibera. It's not clear whether or not it's working, but is it nothing?
Slum upgrading project is a beautiful project which needs to be supported. And the pace at which it is going, if we are going to provide or facilitate housing for the increasing number of people that are going into urban areas, it's going to take us probably 120 years. We don't have that. And I think it is very important, it's very easy. We do not have to recreate the wheel because some of these things have been done elsewhere, including Africa. Right. Mali, for example, came up with social housing, housing that will accommodate people that earn less than 10,000 shillings. Mm-hmm. And in those houses, there will be electricity, but there will also be access. You remember early this year and late last year, when fire broke out in Mathare, lots of people died, but lots of property also was lost. But the ambulance and fire brigade could not access those areas because there is no access.
Right, and this is a story which we see replicated time and time again.
Absolutely.
When there's a crisis.
And if we have planning, like I say, that was done in Mali, there will be electricity, there will be roads, there will be security, there will be sewage, there will be drainage, there will be water. People will be served as other people are being served elsewhere outside of the informal settlement.
Okay, and just as we wind up, because we're running out of time, Jeremiah did say that, you know, they're speaking up, but unfortunately their voices are not being heard. And the reality is that the middle class is normally the voice that carries the weight. And unfortunately, it's known in Kenya that we're a very reactionary civilization. So why should someone who is living in the high-end areas care about what's going on in the informal settlements?
You are your brother's keeper. This country is for all of us. And if something is going to happen, and happen to destroy what we have built because the government is not listening, it will touch everybody. It will not spare the middle class or the high class. Mm-hmm. And I think it is important that as a people, we look at how the other side also live. And I think this is really what is important, that as a sensitive government, it is judged by how it treats people that are disadvantaged and vulnerable.
All right.
And I think the middle class need to wake up and say, is this happening in our country, in our time? What can we do? Right. Their voices are very important. People must not be treated with indignity, because if they're treated with indignity, they're going to react, and they will want to say, are we different from the others? Because this is really what is happening all around. Mm-hmm. And we must look at, say, how do others live around Kenya? If there is a problem in Mombasa with MRC, and there's a problem elsewhere in Mount Elgon, and I am here in Nairobi, I am not safe. And I would like to end by saying that there is this famous saying that when they came for the communists, I did not react because I wasn't a communist. Mm-hmm. When they came for the Jews, I did not react because I wasn't a Jew. When they came for the Africans, I did not react because I wasn't an African. And when they came for me, there was nobody left to speak for me. It is important that we do speak for each other.
Very powerful words from Justice. But Jeremiah, as we close, you know, it's not going to take one day for everyone to wake up and realize that this problem affects us all. So today, on World Habitat Day, what would you like to tell the viewers, regardless of where they're watching us from, what can they do to just try and improve the situation a little more?
Yeah, thank you. What I could say is that we know that things will not change overnight. But what we are telling the government basically is that let it respect the rights of the people, especially the right to adequate housing, and at the same time, let it give the people the security of tenure, so that wherever people are staying, they are assured that they will wake up and find their homes are safe. And where I'm calling upon all the slum residents, that's for sometimes we have been called criminals. The government calls us people living in the slum, they are criminals, of which we are not. And we want to say that we want to engage the government in dialogue, articulating issues, engaging the government of what's supposed to do. So, and what we are saying is that let the government, because even if it affects people, there is no affordable houses elsewhere where the government has built, and it says now, look, we have those, we have built those houses somewhere else. We are evicting you from this place, just go and occupy those houses. There are no houses. So it evicts people, no houses to live, and when we are trying to make our houses for ourselves, because the government has failed to do it. So because there's nobody who could like to live in a slum, because the life we live there is a bad life. Every person, if you move around the streets, you will find people saying, I would like to live in this, like, in this good house like this one. And that's what I'm hoping, that in the future, I will be able to live a house, a beautiful house, a decent house. But before I reach there, I must start to live somewhere.
Right.
And that's where we are calling the government, that let the government respect our houses as it plans to improve our lives. It cannot do it at once, but let us do it gradually.
Absolutely.
Instead of demolishing the houses without giving the alternatives, and then reducing people more poverty than the way they are today.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeremiah being the true realist there with his suggestions. But you've been watching KTN Sunrise Live, and we've been talking about World Habitat Day and the issues that revolve around certainly you and I. Thank you very much for your viewership, and thank you so much, Justice and Jeremiah, for joining us this morning. It's been a pleasure. If you have any comments or if you want to reach any of our guests, 8040 is our SMS number. Remember, you can also reach us on Twitter at KTN Kenya is our page, and our digital platform, standardmedia.co.ke, for all the news updates. That is where I leave you this morning. I'm going to leave you in the safe hands of Noah Otieno, our political